Artificial intelligence or AI has become a sort of buzzword. While everyone is talking about AI, very few of us actually understand what are its implications are, and for that matter, what exactly is AI. Renowned public intellectual and thought leader Rajiv Malhotra ji has recently authored this extremely well written and important book called Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Power, Five Battlegrounds, in which he talks about not only what AI is, but also what is its impact on our society, our country, and in fact, the world. Keep watching. Hello everyone, welcome once again to Books Wale Bhaiya. I'm Abhishek, and today I'll talk about a book which is a very important book, I would say, on the subject of artificial intelligence or AI as we call it. This is a book by Rajiv ji, a person who I would say needs no introduction. I have read all of his books related to India, Indian society, Hinduism, and I would say it's one of the all his books are among the best I have ever read. And in this book, he has not talked about religion or any such thing. He has talked about artificial intelligence, and he has explained this in terms of five battlegrounds, as he says. So the first battleground he talks about is about economy, industry, education, and jobs. But before that, let's understand what artificial intelligence actually is. So this is, we can say loosely speaking, it's a kind of technological advancement. However, how it works is that it's very different from previous technological advancements, because in this, the machines, the computers, they are becoming intelligent at doing tasks which earlier were done through an algorithm. So everything, when you say a software, is actually based on algorithm which got instructions from a human. However, this time it's a bit different. He gives an example of a driverless car. So a driverless car is not based on an algorithm of something like if this, then this, if this, not, if not, then this. Therein, machines are learning to drive a car just like a human does. So the machine learns like a human by making mistakes, by going on road, by navigating the various traffic situations, roundabouts, and that's how they learn. And so artificial intelligence makes machines, software way too smarter. So the earlier held notion that a machine can never replace human does not look like it will hold true in the future as well. Machines are becoming way more smarter. So the major disadvantage here is that machines can perform many kind of jobs, and it can actually replace humans in those jobs. We're already talking of a jobs crisis which is likely to be aggravated due to the arrival of AI. And in fact, he also challenges the widely held belief that only the menial jobs will be at risk, only the routine jobs will be at risk. He believes that a software can do as such any sophisticated task, even for example, things like a medical surgery. He doesn't believe that anything is impossible, and yes, machines have the potential to actually replace practically any kind of job. And he believes that India, or any country like India, where there's a huge population underemployed, unemployed, and a large chunk of population doing non-sophisticated menial jobs, it can become a very difficult scenario, because a lot of these jobs could actually be lost. The other battleground he talks about is basically what he calls moronization of the masses. So we all know that all these IT companies like Facebook, Twitter, Google, and all, they take our data. However, happily, we give this data happily in exchange for free services, and we all know that it's already influencing our choices in some way. So for example, if you search for something on Google and or on Amazon, and you see those similar ads appearing. However, he says this is not as simple as it sounds. It's basically there's a lot of data being generated every day worldwide, which is being used not just to determine your fashion choices or to determine which brand you will buy, which phone you will buy, or which book you will buy. It's a kind of psychological mapping is being done, which is going to actually heavily influence everyone's mind. So for example, if you look for something on YouTube and it gives you similar suggestions, then this will come this psychologically mapping you what you like, what you don't like, and it's likely that you will see more and more similar content. This is not something which can be taken lightly, because people are being molded psychologically. So for example, if I look for something in terms of politics or geopolitics, I will be getting similar topics, and I'm kind of becoming more of a moron rather than understanding various aspects. I will just be focusing on similar kind of things, and I'm not actually helping my mind to, you can say, grow or develop. The companies would be kind of forcing me, pushing me towards similar kind of content, and this is something which can actually affect individuals. And remember, whenever you are giving away any of your data, which is happening, it's this comes with this purpose of actually capturing your data, and on the basis of that making you not only buy but making you think on those lines. So once again, this is a loss of, you can say, a human agency or human will, because we are being fed what at the end of the day the machine wants us to see and understand. So the data, and he says again, he talks about India, is that in India there are no proper data laws, privacy laws, and which puts India at a big disadvantage compared to other countries. The another battleground he talks about, and a very important one, is related to geopolitics. He believes that breaking India forces, or those forces which do not see any good for India, are likely to use AI to do, first of all, psychological mapping, to break people into factions, as has been done in the form of popular culture, literature, academia, which he has talked about in his book Breaking India. He says now it can be done through AI. People may be forced to believe into something wrong happening with the country, but they may be interpreting it in their own way rather than understanding their problems. And this way, can be manipulated to make people, against the government or the country or the society in many aspects. So he said this is something, data, as we all say, data has become the new oil. So those countries which today have data, they can manipulate it to their advantage, and it is already happening, especially in countries like China and India. So geopolitical future, which at a time dependent on the industrial revolution, which at a time dependent on cheap labor, and one time it was dependent on technology, but today everything is becoming dependent on artificial intelligence. Those countries which today have data, AI, are going to rule the world. And he says that India is actually far behind. China and US are going to rule because of the investments already made in AI because of that. And this is a new battleground for geopolitics as well as military. In fact, there's a possibility that in some decades from now, instead of soldiers, there may be robots on the borders. So once again, it proves that those which have AI, the best artificial intelligence techniques, software updates, and which have heavy investments in AI, are going to rule the world. And once again, he says here India is again at a disadvantage because there was very, very less investment in AI. In fact, he says that one of the things which needed to be understood is that not only India, but even in other countries as well, very few people actually understand what is the likely impact of AI. Many of the research papers which are actually sponsored by corporates or by those people who have vested interest in adopting AI do not showcase this as some sort of negative impact. They only talk about the positives, but very few people, he says, even the so-called pressure groups or thought leaders, actually have a limited understanding of AI's impacts even in areas like geopolitics and military, as he says. The fourth battleground, and the most important one, he talks about what he talks as crash of civilizations and moronization of the masses. Today we are being fed what the IT companies such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, Insta and all, they want us to get fed with. Today we are feeding just that. We are giving our data and we are getting some data from them. This has impact, as I mentioned at the beginning, not just on the type of clothes we wear, or the type of books we read, or the type of videos we watch, but practically everything. He says at an advanced level, humans will be becoming dependent on machines. So what the human as we see today is becoming a kind of machine, he says. And this, he believes, is one of the most dangerous likely impacts of artificial intelligence. It's like a human is being looked at as sum of the parts, wherein it has different parts in the body and brain, and then through the psychological mapping and all, he is becoming a digital slave, as he says, a slave to all these organizations which will be using humans for their purposes, for their selfish corporate interest. This is, and again, once again, he says India, due to lack of data privacy, lack of data related to data laws, is again at a disadvantage compared to other countries. The fifth and the last battleground is about testing the Indian Rashtra. Well, he presents I won't say a negative picture. He presents what he feels is realistic. India has a lot of underemployed, unemployed people, which will find difficult to get new jobs if these jobs are taken away. And this risk is not just to the less educated, this risk is at every education level, because if there are people who need to learn new techniques, you can't expect everyone, especially those in the middle or towards the end of their career, to actually learn and adopt artificial intelligence in their jobs. Then again, as you talked about, that as India has not been much investments in AI so far. In fact, people don't actually understand the impact of AI geopolitically and militarily. Also, it's at a disadvantage compared to other countries. China and US are ruling, and China, he says, is even ahead of even US in many aspects. And as you all know that China is, it's easy to say China is no friend of India. It is not likely that investment which China is making into AI will actually be putting it to some good use for India. Other than this, we talked about breaking India forces. That as people psychological mapping, people are fed to believe in some particular thought processes, may actually lead to more faction, more violence, and all such things in the Indian society. He thinks it's time for India to rise, to understand the problem, and to invest heavily in artificial intelligence. He gives another example when he says that while India made tremendous progress in the information technology revolution, it was, however, restricted to outsourcing, wherein people, he says, working as cyber coolies, but they are being happy with that. He, however, says this was short-sightedness on the part of the leadership, but today the time has come to actually make huge investments in AI. Otherwise, if China and US rule, it will be a new form of colonization, which in this time would be digital. Well, this is it about the book. I understand some of you may find the book a bit pessimistic, thinking that this book is only talking about the negative impacts and not the positive impacts. However, this book by Rajiv is based on intensive research. So I, as someone who has read on AI and as someone who has read about Rajiv's other books as well, I personally believe this is what a scenario looks like. The timelines and the exact impact may differ, but it's not that whatever he has written, everything word by word will be happening this way. However, these are the impacts which no one can deny. Rajiv ji is not the only one who says so. There are many other thought leaders, intellectuals who are understanding the negative impacts of AI. So, but this may appear to be some doomsday kind of thing. I personally believe all this is something which is likely to happen. Even if it does not happen 100%, it is something which is likely to happen, and we cannot deny that India as a country needs to step up big time its investments in AI. At the same time, Rajiv ji mentioned he's writing another book in which he will be a kind of sequel to this book, in which he will be talking about what India can actually do to make sure that it stays ahead in the AI race and does not ensure that China and US take away or lead this race compared to India. All in all, I would say a very important read, more than looking at it whether it's pessimistic or optimistic, whatever. I would say everyone who cares about the future of India, Indian society, about geopolitics, everyone must read this book. Thank you very much for watching my video. If you think I did a good job, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more updates. Thank you.